You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. Today we've actually got some cricket to begin with. That's a good thing. There's been some county championship matches. Bangladesh have been in action, so we're not completely making this show up. We've got some cricket business as the BCCI try and ruin the whole English summer by moving one of the tests around. And to honour Darren Stevens, who played in the cricket, the aforementioned cricket, and hit 190 including 15 sixes at the age of 45, we have put together our old man 11, haven't we, boys? I'm Jack Hope. I'm here with Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross?
I'm okay, thanks, mate. I'm glad there's some cricket back, and I think this is the last week where there's actually not like international cricket people actually typically watch. So I'm not sure that many people are going to sit and watch Bangladesh. There's no offense to Bangladesh fans who listen to us. But I can guarantee there's about 5 people in England watching that.
Yeah, I don't even think it's broadcast in England, to be honest. Max, how are you doing? Are you feeling young now that you've heard about Darren Stevens' exploits?
Oh, well, how could you not? But also sort of optimistic as well that I could yet go on to a sterling cricketing career. I've got a good 16 years ahead of me yet. So yeah, no hope lost.
I mean, Darren Stevens didn't become a cricketer at 30.
No,
he's not
but
had, like,
he's done like the best things in his career in the later years. So I'm still hoping that I might, reach my peak yet.
You might mature as a fine wine.
Yes.
Yes. Well, Darren Stevens certainly has. I'm looking forward to talking about him. I'm looking forward to talking about our old man 11. I put a lot of thought into that. And that will be good a bit later on in the show. But first, to kick us off, we've got the big question of the week, boys. There was some big news in the world of financial technology. I think it's financial technology. Blockchain technology. As today, I heard that this week, somebody spent £500,000 on a non-fungible token to basically own the Charlie Bit My Finger video. Are we aware of the Charlie Bit My Finger video, boys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. If you're not aware, go and look at it. It's about a boy whose finger is bitten by his younger brother called Charlie. I think,
you nailed it then, mate.
Spoiler.
Yeah. You kind of ruined the
video. My question related to that is if cricketers decided to sell their stats as non-fungible tokens, whose stats would you buy and why? And my understanding of this technology is that once you've bought the non-fungible token, you effectively get all the stats. So, if you buy Don Bradman's non-fungible token, you've got a test batting average of 99.94, Ross. Does that appeal to you, or did you go down a different route?
No, it has appealed to me. If you're going to spend that money to own some stats and you can back it, I'm not going with that. Oh, I've got a batting average of 25 that's going to haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm going big, and I've gone with Jack Callis. Like, his stats are big boy stats.
Yeah, you've gone for all the stats.
Yeah. It's not just runs I've gone after. I've gone for catches, wickets, and just all general kind of being pretty much the best cricketer in the world for quite a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it would immediately give you a level of credibility, and us by association a level of credibility that we frankly do not have at the moment. So thank you for thinking about us. Max, same question to you. At the non-fungible token sale of cricketers' stats, whose stats are you buying?
Yeah, well, I thought about maybe going for someone like up and coming in the, under the pretense that maybe someone might see my stats on Play Cricket and go, oh, actually, maybe we should give him a like trial contract for a year or so. But then I realised that very quickly after that, my stats would get brought back down to the level they should be if I was actually forced to play any cricket. So I've gone down a similar route to Ross, and I've picked Kumar Sangakkara's stats because I'd like some of the wicket keeping stats as well, and obviously he scored lots and lots of runs at an average of over 57. And I think also, much like in the way I've played cricket and padded my stats with top scores against teams that have brought along 12-year-olds. Kumar Sangakkara padded his stats with a lot of games against Bangladesh and the like. So
Well, we've insulted Bangladesh twice on the show already for no reason.
It's just happens, doesn't it? It just happens from time to time.
It's not wrong. So I had a good think about this, and I think like you boys have kind of played it right in that you've gone for big numbers, but there were bigger numbers out there. Is Jacques Kallis's career totals are they more impressive than Tendulkar's cross-format dominance, for instance? Because you're not just buying the test runs here, are you? And Max, to your point, same question, really. Would you have been better off going for Tendulkar? I haven't gone for Tendulkar. I've come to that realization now that I've basically done what you two have done. I've gone with Sean Pollock.
Okay.
which is a panic choice, because I was going to go with Muralitharan because 800 wickets is quite good. And I think it's probably unlikely anyone will get to 800 test wickets. I think people might overtake Tendulkar or at least in the various formats of the game. That could happen, but I don't see that happening for Murali. So you'd be a great forever. But then I realised that Murali doesn't have a test century, and you would want to buy at least one test century. You want to be a laughing stock with the bat. And so, same era, I thought, who was a good bowler who could bat? Could have gone with Shane Warne. Again, they're out on 99. Good story. Yeah. I bet many an after-dinner speech has been dominated by Shane Warne regaling the corporate audience about the time he was out on 99. But it's still 99. So I sort of went next down the list. Sean Pollock. Yeah, it was Rogue, wasn't it?
I must admit, I didn't expect you to say Sean Pollock.
Player. It was Rogue. He was a good player. I think three good choices. Look, to be honest as well, you have to bear in mind, look, Tendulkar, the Ambani family are going to be spending billions on buying Tendulkar stats to own Tendulkar stats.
Cricket South Africa, we get that cheap. That's
we're in the market.
Yeah,
that's a market we can compete in. Cricket South Africa.
Yeah, and I reckon Jack Kallis isn't the kind of guy to go banding round and go, I've scored 13,000 Test match runs. I think he's just like, I was pretty good at cricket once upon a time. Yeah. I just lets it go.
If I was an aging cricketer, I would definitely sell my stats via non-fungible tokens. Not really sure how that technology works. I'm assuming it's possible, but that's what I would do if I was running out of money. Ross, do we have any messages for our listeners? Let us know who you'd buy to begin with in the comments. But do we have any other messages for our listeners, viewers?
Yeah, how much we actually like Bangladesh. So we're going to apologise for insulting Bangladesh, and I'm sure someone will pick up Tamik Iqbal's non-fungible token stats at some point. I think from what our listeners should do, you should like and subscribe to this video. We're about to start talking about proper cricket after we finish this segment. And you should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And also, if you want to buy a cricket bat, go to Woodstock Cricket. So Max has been working hard in the background, created some great videos about bat myths and introducing our partnership with them that's going to be released later on this week, Max?
Yeah, hopefully, once we get the go-ahead from the old Woodstock boys.
Mm-hmm. So, watch out for that.
I lived it, but I'm looking forward to viewing it again. And
I'm not.
Your hair, wow.
And you should head over to Patreon, where we have a Patreon, and you can support the podcast directly. That's what we want you to do. If you like the Cricket Podcast, then go over to Patreon. /the Cricket Pod. Our goal is to reach 10 Patreons. Have you seen our progress in the last week, boys?
No.
I saw a couple more, I think.
Yeah, I think we've gone from 6 to 8. So if we can get another couple this week, then we'll be up to 10, and we'll be, we'll start to feel a bit more confident.
What happens then? Do we retire?
No. It's we're going. Ultimately, we're going for Brian Lara's top score in first class cricket, 501. Right. So we need to get to 502. But
should have just gone for Brian Lara. Should have bought his stats.
When Brian Lara did the 501, he didn't think, today's the 501 day. He was like, I'm going to get to 10. And that's what we're doing. We're starting slowly. Very slowly, over a number of weeks so far. But do head over to Patreon, /the Cricket Pod, and lend us a couple of quid a month or whatever the options are. I think it's £3.50 at the lower end. Shall we take a really quick break and then bounce back with our county championship stuff, our cricket business, and some nice things about the Bangladesh cricket team? Old people, yeah. Welcome back, everyone. We've got a reasonable news segment this week. Should we keep the listeners in suspense in terms of talking about the actual cricket, though, and instead talk about negotiations between two international cricket boards?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
That sounds thrilling. You've really teed that up.
Well, it is. I mean, there has been some big news this week. So basically, to fit the IPL in, the BCCI have approached the English Cricket Board and said, lads, you know that cricket match we've got booked for September in Manchester? It's going to be really cold and it's going to rain. So why don't we move that bad boy earlier in the summer? We're over here anyway. The World Test Championship's on. Play the 5-match series, but just finish it a couple of weeks early so that we can fit the IPL into like a 20-day window. Possibly in England, possibly in the UAE. We're not really sure about that. And make loads of money. Ross, is that roughly what's happened?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the BCCI unfortunately couldn't get insurance for a coronavirus pandemic for the thing, so they are actually estimated to lose 3,000 crore. So, Max, your cricket maths, how much is that in British pounds?
I think that's 300 million. Yeah,
that much.
So it's a significant amount of money.
It's $500 million.
So if there was a hole in a ship, you want to fill it. This 300 million pound hole. Yes, Jack.
Question: who was responsible for the decision to go ahead with the tournament in the middle of the pandemic in India without insurance? Do we know?
It's a really good question. And none of the articles that I've seen on it have even asked that question. So I'm guessing it's probably Sourav Ganguly who's gone, fuck it, let's just do it. And he's just like, oh no, this is who could have seen a coronavirus pandemic actually breaking out within the bio bowls? It's impossible. Actually, should have done it in the UAE or somebody else, but it doesn't matter. So it's too late now. They couldn't get the insurance. They've gone ahead with the tournament, and now they've got 31 more games to fit in out of the 60 games they play. So I think where we should start is how this is even a conversation. So the balance of power in the modern game, Max. I mean, this fundamentally shows how it has shifted over the last decade since the IPL's been kind of in play. They've got their own window where no international cricket actually gets played because it's such a massive tournament, a massive franchise tournament. But now, should England agree to this, Max? Should actually we put franchise cricket ahead of international? Ahead of international cricket.
Well, that is the question, isn't it, Ross? Should England agree to it? And I look forward to seeing what England have to say. It's so difficult. I think probably you kind of just have to say, look, I'm sorry. I know it's a really rubbish situation, and lots of things have been moved around because of the coronavirus pandemic. But we've actually got a pretty tight schedule put in that we've arranged with a number of different cricket boards, partly to catch up on all this cricket that hasn't happened, and ultimately, it's just like shit luck that it's happened, and you just have to say, yes, sorry, you're gonna have to find another way around it, unless there's some sort of kind of acceptance of a quid pro quo. So I mean, bearing in mind, they might be slated to save £300 million from being able to host the pandemic. You might say, okay, well, if you want to reimburse us for cancelling the test or something like that, or the other one, which I think has been highlighted, which is let your Indian players all come and play the 100, then maybe you could sort of enter into negotiations. But there would have to be some serious greasing of the wheels on the other side to, I think, even countenance being able to move it, because ultimately it's not the ECB's problem, is it?
Well, it's a really interesting one. Sorry, I was going to say that because I nearly used this as my question of the week. Basically, the ECB are in a situation, no, Ross, I'll ask you if you could ask for anything in the world from the BCCI, what would you ask for? Because that's where the ECB are right now in terms of this. It's an open book.
Yeah. Well, the ECB have a cash strapped at the moment. They spend loads of money on the 100. The impact of coronavirus is expected to cost the ECB £360 million. So they need money. So they definitely want a share of that 300 million that they're going to get out of sponsorship and all that kind of stuff. There is also a piece around the unique selling point for the IPL is that the Indian players can play in that tournament. That is what they just say. If you want this product, the product is so good in India, you can only see the best Indian players, or any Indian players play in this league if you watch the IPL. So I think there needs to be a bit where the Indian player, like if I'm the ECB, I'm saying for the 100, you're going to release some of your players to go and play. And not just for one instance of it. This is like a multi-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, because
that would be my opening offer.
It's a bit too late now, isn't it, for this year anyway? Because your drafts have been done and overseas players.
Top-up draft. Each team gets to pick one Indian player.
Yeah. Well, that's going to suck for
they can't arrange
the overseas players they've already got.
They're already here.
Well, is it?
Well, that's it. I mean, what are they going to be doing? Playing inter squad matches between the World Test Championship final and the beginning of the tour.
So on that bit, so with the rescheduling request, it actually means that the 100 actually only starts a week before the first Test match. So actually, we're supposed to play 3 group games. So the deal was that out of the Test players that have been selected, they would get to play 3 games for the Trent Rockets or whoever.
Yeah.
And then they'd be released from the squad to play the eliminator and then the final if their teams were to get there.
Yeah.
So there still is a bit of an issue there. You're not saying that. I think there needs to be a bit where, like Max says, like it might be like they play 1 or 2 games this year, but next year you need them coming back. The year after you need them coming back, and that's it. That is a huge thing to ask, I think. But this is the ECB hold all the cards here, and you have to look at it from the ECB point of view as well. There are probably some listeners who don't, follow the English summers calendar that closely, and they're thinking, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference between playing a test in the middle of September, which is basically autumn in Manchester, and playing it when you might actually get 5 days cricket in July? And that's a reasonable question to ask. And the problem is that at this point in time, they have sold out, I think, 3 of the 5 days, with a lot of tickets sold for day 4 and some tickets sold for day 5. Now, that means, I think off the top of my head, there's probably 100,000 people's worth of plans made to go and watch the England cricket team or go and watch the Indian cricket team in September. Along with that comes, like holiday bookings, travel arrangements, days out, birthday parties, whatever it is. All of these, there's 100,000 moving parts from the point of view of spectators. Changing anything related to that is going to annoy at least a chunk of them. For some of them, they might want to, go in July instead. There's going to be a little bit of to and fro there. But for a lot of people, they've spent a lot of money, built their calendar around it, made bookings, looking forward to this, and they're either not going to be able to go, or it's just going to be a ball ache. The second thing is that if it does get moved, there's not actually, at this point in time, a cast iron guarantee that the fans will be going to any cricket matches this summer. Mm-hmm. There's more chance of them going to a game in September, I think, than a game in, what would it be, late-ish, mid-ish July? Yes, it's late July. So the 100 starts on the 21st of July, I think. So, 28th, from the 28th.
Sure. So what moving the test does is effectively mean that those 100,000 tickets, some of them might have to be reimbursed. Now, if, as Ross, as you said, if you're a cash-strapped organisation, you don't really want to be doing that. Now, in theory, we're all supposed to be unlocked on the 21st of June and we'll all be at the cricket and there'll be no problems. I don't know if that's exactly how it'll be happening. I've got tickets to a few matches over the summer. I'm expecting at least some of them, even if, things are looking good, I'm expecting at least some of those tickets to basically be refunded because they can't do the full capacity thing that they want to do. There's news reports in the country at the moment. People are getting a little bit nervous about the Indian variant in different parts of the UK. Germany have banned. Well, it's what people call it. the
COVID variant that was originally found in India.
the COVID variant, formerly known as the Indian variant.
Yeah.
We had the Kent one. We had to deal with that moniker. Like, it's just their turn.
Sorry, I've been derailed. So there's Germany have banned travellers from the UK. There's definitely a bit of nervousness about the plan, and that puts a lot of that money on the line. Even if those 100,000 people are all happy to go to the cricket again in July and they don't have to resell any tickets. Finally, and I think this is the big one, it really messes up the reason that England are so cash strapped in the first place, and that's because they put all the eggs in the 100 basket. They really, really need that to be a success. They need people to engage with it straight away. And in the UK's cricket environment, or in England's cricket environment, there aren't that many players that are recognisable on the street. If Ben Stokes isn't in the 100 and Joe Root isn't in the 100 and maybe Moeen Ali isn't in the 100, they're three, and then the rest of the team as well. But I don't think Dom Sibley's going to play, to be honest. They're three big names. You can put them on the BBC. You can shout about them. People will tune into Sky to watch them. It gives the whole tournament a bit of context. It's they're Trent Rockets, Johnny Bairstow's team, or whatever. I think he plays for Trent Rockets or the Welsh Fire, Johnny Bairstow's team. Yeah. It joins the dots up for people. If it's just a bunch of random overseas players who people haven't seen because they don't really follow franchise cricket, and a load of blast players that people, the cricket fans would rather be playing in their blast sides, it is a significantly less valuable product. So I think, from the ECB's point of view, the answer to the BCCI either has to be no, sorry, your problem. You're going to have to deal with losing that money. Or it has to be guarantee, absolutely cast iron guarantee that the 100 is going to be a success over 10 years by letting all Indian players, scheduling, allowing, playing this tournament. And the other thing is, to be honest, it's interesting that another nation's got some leverage over the BCCI because for most of the last 5 years, the BCCI have held it over every other cricket board. And the way they've done that is by telling everyone how much money they're going to earn from the IPL. And now, there's a bit of a yin and a yang to that because you're now in a situation where everybody knows exactly how much money you stand to lose if this doesn't come off. And you go around being Billy Big Bollocks, acting like playing South Africa or playing Sri Lanka is like an act of benevolent grace instead of like some kind of equal sporting contest. Then you should expect to be treated like that when the shoe is on the other foot, as it were. So that's what I'd be saying if I was the ECB. 10 years of Indian players minimum in the 100, or we won't reschedule it because
it could
we can't take the risk.
It could be an unbelievably serendipitous moment for the ECB in the 100 as well. It could be the thing that actually makes it successful against all the odds. People in this country might go, oh, well, if I get to see actually Ben Stokes taking on Virat Kohli for whatever game it is in the 100, then that might just give it the edge it needs to get it to do what they wanted it to do in the first place, which is get new people into cricket. And in the format it is at the moment, we'll see whether that happens. But maybe this is the defining moment for the 100 where it becomes a success. And I think I think you're right. I think they would need to use it that way because that will be, I think the 100 will be front and foremost in their thinking because they desperately need it to work. And this is like a chance for them to actually do that.
It's also a really good opportunity for the Outros and the Safari because I think they should make sure they've got those, and then they should have them scattered around. If you hit them, you win the Ferrari, you win the Outros. Anyway, so I think
it won't be insured though. That's the problem.
I'm good. Just one final question on this. If say there's a scenario, this is the conclusion they come to. We're going to reschedule this. For this summer, you get to draft a supplementary Indian player who's going to play like 3 or 4 matches for your 100 team. Who is the first name
Jadeja
you take? Yeah, Matt.
Well,
I guess Ross went first in the draft.
Yeah. If we're Birmingham Phoenix and Dan Weston's there, I reckon Bumrah or Jadeja are kind of 1 or 2 up on his list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I think Jadeja is by a distance number. There's loads of people. I guarantee you, all 8 franchises would take Virat Kohli first, and they'd all be wrong.
Yeah.
But Jadeja's who I would choose, yeah, and Bumrah second.
So who's third? Come on.
I'm significantly less enthused by most of the rest of the Indian test team. Probably, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's the obvious one.
Rohit Sharma's not bad, especially if you took him this year. But yeah. Anyway.
Ashwin.
Ravi. So I think, but again, it's a really interesting situation, as you say, Jack. Like the BCCI kind of over a barrel, and England are kind of just sitting there going, well. So we'll see what happens, and but hopefully it will only be good for cricket. And this is a bit, it'll be good for cricket in this country. You'll get more interest in cricket, and I'm actually a fan of rescheduling it. I realise that it's going to put so many people put their nose out of joint. But if we can get Indian players playing in an English domestic game, that is only a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I think Jack touched on it though, because I mean, when we bought tickets for the Lord's Test, and when we were doing it, I was fully of the opinion that I'm buying this ticket and I'm just going to get money back in however many months. I think a lot of people will probably have gone into buying tickets with a similar mindset, and yeah, they'll be hopeful now that they will actually get to see it. But ultimately, there is, I suppose, a little bit more good grace to be expected from people having their plans rearranged this time than there might have been in another situation.
I don't know. I think people really don't like the BCCI. I think if it is rescheduled, even if there's a massive win in terms of Indian players being allowed to play, if India say we're going to come back and play 5 tests every year for 20 years, like, or if they just said we'll give you the 300 million, people would still be upset that I had tickets to go anyway.
And there will be a bit where Michael Vaughan sticks his big size 10s in and kind of goes, "It's a disgrace," and it'll be like, okay, well, if you're going to talk about this like an adult and see the actual ramifications of what you're talking about, then fine. But yeah, we shall see.
I think that was a good piece of cricket business. If anyone wants to hire us to do their cricket business, there's just a taste of the kind of dynamism we could bring to your boardroom. Max, should we do a little bit of a step change? Go from boardrooms to the cricketing opposite, I think, of boardrooms. The county championship,
pitch?
Is it?
Yeah.
The pitch? Yeah, the pitch. Yeah. County championship, Max. We are approaching the end of the first segment here, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I thought
That's
you
the
were
county championship.
I thought you were gonna say a bit more after that, but
no, I was throwing it over to you for a little update on where we're at.
The first half of the county championship is pretty much drawn to a close, and we've seen a few overseas players, such as Kamal Roach for Surrey, now play their last game as sort of there'll be a new intake, I suppose, and it's shaping up quite nicely actually in all 3 of the divisions. You've got Nottinghamshire sort of starting to move away from the rest of the pack. They are 9 points ahead of Essex, but they've played 1 game less, so they're looking pretty strong in their group, with Durham also chasing them down. Gloucestershire and Somerset are the 2 breakaway teams in the second middle group. I'm not sure how they've just cut them up. I don't know how they cut them up. It was just a bit random, wasn't it? Gloucestershire and Somerset doing well there, and also Hampshire hot on their tails. Less good news for Surrey, languishing in 4th, but they've turned their form around from the start of the season. I know this isn't the Surrey podcast, but I thought I'd spend a bit longer on them because it's me. And then in the third group, you've got Lancashire and Yorkshire at the top, vying for the top spot, which is what we like to see. A bit of Rose action. So I think it's been really good, the county championship. The latest round of fixtures was rather damp. Most games beset by rain, despite the best efforts of some teams to try and force a result, which was a bit of a shame. But ultimately, I think it's been pretty even. Most teams having a chance against most other teams, unless your name is Leicestershire. Sorry, Dan Weston. But yeah, I think it's been a successful revamp for this year. The three group situation. I don't know what you guys have made of it.
I've enjoyed what I've seen. Ross, I know you watched the London Derby this week, or the conclusion to the London Derby between Surrey and Middlesex, which is a dumb couple of names for a London Derby. And this is sort of like English cricket all over. Middlesex v Surrey, the London Derby.
London's in the middle.
Sorry, yeah. Anyway, Ross, that was quite a good game. I know you were enjoying that. Do you want to talk, if we're going to do highlights of the round, that was the best game, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Nick Gubbins hit a brilliant century for Middlesex. And it was weird, when I was watching it, obviously because I'm not sure there was any crowd. They didn't really go to the crowd, so I'm not sure there was actually many people in there. But the sound off of the bat was ridiculous. It didn't sound like I'd heard it before. Like, you don't hear it in the Test matches when kind of Alistair Cook has just cut one away. But you could hear absolutely everything just ping off of the bat. And then you saw Kemar Roach decide to turn up, and he's had a brilliant spell at Surrey. I thought, Max, he's been kind of a good addition to their kind of attack, which has Ricky Clark at 39 in. And I think it's been positive. Surrey did dangle the carrot. The carrot.
That's a new one.
So strangle the cat, dangle the carrot. They did dangle that, and I think that's the good thing about county championship. There is always a risk where you have to like force the game, because it's 4-day cricket. You have to sometimes force the scenario where actually it's not as black and white as when it comes to Test matches and declaring in Test matches. Like, it is a bit just like, oh, we've given ourselves maybe a 60% chance of winning this, but there's still like 40% for the other team is a good one. But ultimately it petered out into a draw. But Surrey did take a number of wickets and needed, I think it was 4 left to win in the game off of 10 balls, the wickets that is, whereas they needed about 23 runs. So it ended up as a good little conclusion.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
it's rain. Rain is a problem with playing cricket in this country. I was hopeful before the summer. Or before the summer, lol, that we would see a batter get to 1,000 runs by the end of May for the first time. I had a look the other day. There's a bloke at Durham who's on about 600. He will need twin double centuries in the last fixture before June to pull that.
Could happen. I think there's a heat wave on the way.
I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it seems unlikely. Max, I don't know. Are there any big boys that might miss out, or who are the favourites in your mind from what you've seen?
I to be honest, I think Lancashire and Yorkshire both looking really strong, and I'm surprised how well Gloucestershire are doing. I think they're sort of always kind of like there or thereabouts in the middle, but yeah, no no runaway favourites for me so far. I think it should be a good even spread once it gets to the knockout stages.
I think there is the possibility, and this will be quite interesting for people that follow the county championship, that Essex don't make the next round. They're only a few points ahead of Durham, and Essex have dominated English cricket for the last few years. So they're only 3 points ahead of Durham. And I think it's like 15 max per match, and Durham have got a game in hand. So Durham have got a really good chance of chasing that down and causing a bit of an upset there. A few weeks ago, we did like a players to watch segment related to the county championship. Have there been any other big performers from an England point of view? Or are we... Well, I mean, it has rained a lot in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. The rain, I think, is the standout performer for the last 2 weeks, and we could well see that make an appearance in the England v New Zealand series, and possibly decide actually swing the results of some games in its favour. Yeah.
I mean, I think the rain. The people talk about form in cricket, and people can believe in it or not. It didn't start the season that well, but it's really warming up moving into the World Test Championship part of the calendar. And if I know rain, it's going to really put in a performance down in
And
Hampshire.
I think what the impressive thing about the rain is just its sustained high performance over a number of years. It almost rivals Darren Stevens for its longevity, and it's kudos to it for that.
Right, boys. That whole championship segment, or the championship segment to this point, has mainly been a prelude to talk about Darren Stevens, and we'll be going deep on Stevens in the segment after the break when we name our old man 11. But he was pretty remarkable in the match he played for Kent recently, wasn't he, Max? Do you want to briefly let the listeners know who Darren Stevens is and why he's amazing?
Yes, absolutely. So Darren Stevens, he's you've mentioned it earlier. He's like a fine red wine, but actually, I think he might even be more like a very expensive Scotch, and he seems to have sort of reached his peak after aging for 45 years in a leather and willow barrel.
And way to actually talk about a cricketer. I think a cricketer would be in a wooden barrel. I like that.
Yeah, he's just seems to have reached height after height in the last few years. He's now 45, and most recently he bludgeoned 190 for Kent against Glamorgan, which in itself, as you said, included 15 sixes. That was an impressive feat. It was made more so by the fact that it dragged Kent from 128 for 8 to 307 all out, and then after that heroic effort, he returns to claim the wicket of Marnus Labuschagne for just 11 runs. So
it wasn't out.
It doesn't matter, does it? It's not what the scorebook says.
We should also point out, if you're good at maths, you'll have followed along with what Max is saying, and immediately have noticed that Darren Stevens getting 190 when he came in at 8 in that circumstance is a little bit surprising. The batters that had partnerships with him, they contributed 0, 12, 7, and 7. So, roughly by my calculations, he scored 190 of 210 runs.
I did see that. I see one of the guys. I think he got one not out of 50 deliveries or something when it was in the partnership. And people were giving him stick on Twitter. It's like, you don't know anything about what his job was there to do. Why did he not get 100 off 50 balls? Doesn't work like that, mate.
Jack Leach, anyone?
It was the Jack Leach role, yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah. Cummins got 7 off 61. Not the Cummins, the lesser Cummins.
But yeah, no. So it was a stunning performance from old Darren, but sadly it was completely pointless because, as we may have mentioned, it rained all weekend, and 55 for 2 in Glamorgan's innings was where the game ended. So never mind. But we were almost denied this performance from Darren Stevens because only 2 years ago, Kent were minded not to extend his 1-year contract. He's been living off 1-year contract since he was 40, and he was about to not get one until he scored a career best 237 off 225 and took 5 for 20 against Yorkshire in the penultimate.
And then they had to give him a really good one.
Yeah, penultimate game of the season. So thank God they did have that rethink, and long live Darren Stevens. 350 first-class games, over 16,000 runs, and 565 wickets, and a cat.
Yeah, he's definitely a hand. Is he an all-round? Does that class you as an all-rounder?
Oh, I think so.
Or is it... I think what happened is he had a career as a batsman, got to about 35, had a career as a bowler, and now
that's
career as an all-rounder. He's going to marry the two parts of his career
pretty much
together.
Exactly what's happened.
What I do like about cricket, and you get this quite often in the county championship, not so much at an international level for whatever reason, but guys who
can't sort the cat out. Obviously, you sort the cat out.
There's guys in some of these teams who do ridiculous things, like Darren Stevens, takes loads of wickets, scores loads of runs. Kent played 7 matches, lost 3, drawn 4. It's all for nothing. The denouement of this man's cricketing career is effectively worthless in terms of...
But Jack, I don't think it's not worthless, because cricket isn't about the team, as we discussed many times here. It is about the individual. Like, whoever ends up with Darren Stevens' non-fungible token of his stats, they're going to be like, I've had a pretty good career here.
That is true, Ross. The last thing, unless anyone wants to talk more about Stevens or the county championship.
No, I think we've done that.
The last thing is that there has been some international cricket played. Bangladesh, they were on a cold streak. I think they'd lost 9 international matches in a row, or hadn't won for 9 matches. But they won. They managed to beat a weak-ish looking Sri Lanka side. Anyone got anything to say about Bangladesh?
That we love you as a country. We value you as a cricketing nation, and it's been great to see the rise of Bangladesh Tigers over the period. And it was great to see Tamim Iqbal hit another 50. So we picked him in our World Test 11, justifiably so.
It looked like when they were here for the World Cup in 2019, it really looked like Bangladesh had made the next step forward. They beat South Africa, didn't they, in that absolute thriller at the Oval. They only narrowly lost to New Zealand. They were in the running to make a semi-final spot until there was sort of a couple of games left, and then it fizzled out a little bit. And you sort of saw Tamim Iqbal, the Fizz, Shakib, Mushfiqur as a decent spine, but they have been bad for a couple of years now. I wonder why. I don't know why. Does anyone know why? Max, you know why?
I don't know. Shakib not playing?
Shakib didn't play. That's true. Maybe they'll do like a West Indies and sort of pull it together for the World T20 in what is it, November? We'll see. I'm interested to see that. I do think with some of the smaller nations, they struggle to get people to turn up and struggle to get them motivated for some matches. So hopefully we see them do well at the World T20 later this year. Any other cricket news, boys, before we take a short break, before we come back with our old man 11?
Nothing from me.
Well, I was going to say World 11, and it is sort of a World 11, but it's a very specific type of geriatric World 11. No? Cool. If you're listening on YouTube, the next video will be out tomorrow, or you can head over to Spotify, Apple, wherever, and catch it now. Play across all formats. That's the dream, isn't it? Are we ready for our break, boys?
Yes.
Yep. And we earned it.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
I think it was a disgraceful performance, and I think it should never be permitted to happen again.
That is very good.